Kata. Seisan.
Hi everybody, we're here to show the Bunkai of Ishinu Karate's Seisan Kata. What I'd like to do is address it from different angles and different styles, which we do in our dojo. We try to analyze moves in our katas if it was, of course, karate, but also jujitsu and aikido and anything that's non-striking that you would expect in karate class. So Christopher here is going to do the first piece of the kata. If you're not part of the Ishinu system, it won't matter much because the moves, I think, transcend arts. We really have everything in all of our moves, and I think we share a commonality that not everybody likes to see. So our endeavor, our platform at our dojo is to open our eyes and see all the different possibilities. So the first move in the kata is just a straight on. Chris will come in to punch me. Let's say if I was following the kata, he would punch me with his right hand and I would step straight in and I would side block. I'm not a big proponent of that because most people aren't strong enough to walk straight into a strong punch. So maybe what I would add to that is the angular action of other arts, where maybe if he were coming in, I would dissipate the power and move out, and I would still do the block. From a standpoint of what I did, it's still the same. Perspective is different, but it's still the same. I still did the same block, and I still have the opportunity to punch him as well on the retaliatory motion. So instead of this, I would personally suggest this, for instance. Now, we have to remember sometimes people may punch with the other hand, so I always suggest to my students as they advance that they learn to do the kata in a mirror-like way. So, meaning if the kata typically starts on the left, I would do it on the right as well to be ambidextrous. So if you were to come here, or more so, let's say the hand came in from an angle that didn't allow me to block on the inside, I could still block to the outside of his arm, which for me is better. I like to be behind the arm, and I'll talk about that in the future as we go. The next three moves are, in my opinion, kind of straightforward. It's just three strong punches, taking care of the aftermath. Now, the next move is what I want to get to. The double high block I'm starting to see in a lot of arts that I study and train in. So as Christopher comes in, he'll come at me, and I would do the two high blocks, which looks like this. Now, I've been seeing a lot of other arts that do a similar thing. Sometimes the word is a shield. It's a little bit more covered. It depends on which style you do, but in my opinion, it's all the same, just different flavors. So what you can do at home with a spouse, be careful, or a child, this is really what this is for today, is to give you some ideas to train at home when you're not in the dojo. Just go slow, but if I go at Christopher, he's just gonna cover his head with two hands. I might just come in with this one, but at least he's covering his other side for another attack. Or again, if they come in with two hands at the same time. The point is the move we see in the kata, which is like this, can turn into other things that are very symbolic and very similar. So what I would recommend, get a person that you can train with and just go slow and just do different permutations of the same motion and just come in slow and test it out, and eventually you'll get to the point that it's very difficult to get near your head. So that would be my first recommendation. All right, so we're talking about this double high block we see in our kata, which would be called shielding in other arts potentially. So what I want you to do now, let's say Christopher's here, I'm gonna come in him and I'm just gonna be his trainer. He's gonna block, say, but he'll still have his other hand there in case he needs to block or retaliate with a move. So I'm just gonna come in, maybe 2, maybe even change it up and go a little lower, not quite the move, but when you extrapolate out, it's still the same concept. So I'll just do a few just to show you what I would suggest. But in the end, he's blocking at the same time to cover his head. From that point, from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, I like to grab the hand if I can. So he grabs my hand and he's going to step through and trap it, maybe switch his hand. So we'll rewind just a little bit so you can see that transition. He blocks, he grabs with his left hand to my right hand, and as he comes through, he re-grips with his other hand so that provides potentially maybe an arm bar downward. Or if he did it to the outside like that, he could turn the other way, and as he comes through, the motion would take me into what it would be called a shihonage. So the point is the motion in the kata looks like this. It goes 1, 2. So going back to where we were, Christopher blocks, he grabs it, and as he comes through, he pushes down on my arm, just like we would see in the kata, the same application. Or he blocks, he goes to the outside, and as he turns the other way, he grabs, and he can put me into another wrist hold. There's lots of different transitions coming off that same sequence. Next we get to the motion in the kata that's across a lot of arts, and it looks similar to this. It's a block across, another block across. Now typically in the kata it looks like this. We just came off of this motion in the kata. We sweep, we block, we come across, we would grab, we would pull. If you're in our system or you study an art that has Seisan in it, or Hengetsu, it's a move. We also see it in further katas where we do it in a horse stance or we do it in a cat stance. I'll address those as we go, but we'll keep it to Seisan Kata for now. So when Christopher comes in at me, what I want you to do at home, he's going to come at me with his right hand slow because we're learning, and I'm going to push it with my inside hand and then trap it. If he comes at me with the same hand and the angle's in such that I have to go to the outside of the hand, it's the same way. So let me redo that. So he comes in, I'm going to push it just to get the punch out of the way, and I'm going to trap. He's going to come in, I'm going to push, and I'm going to trap. Very similar to stick fighting arts, trapping hands. So I often like to just, again, going back to the footwork concept, instead of just going head on like we would see in our kata, I would do the same motion, but I would do it on an angle and add triangular motion to it so that I'm in a better place once the move has happened. So let's go all together now. He comes in with his right hand. I'm going to push with my right, trap with my left. He comes in with his left. I push with my right, I trap with my left. He comes in back with his right, I go to the outside. He comes in with his left, I go to the outside. But remember to try, so again, Isshinryu would do it straight, which is fine, but I would suggest trying to do it with triangular motion to get out of the trajectory of the attack, whether it's a knife, a gun, a punch, anything. It gets you out of the line of attack so that you're safe. So up till this point, we've covered the first few sections of Seisan Kata. In the future, we'll do the next 2 pieces. In my opinion, there's 3 major parts: the beginning, the middle section or the bridge, and then the final ending part. So what we want to do just to finish off this episode is do a quick review of the whole piece that we've done so far a little bit more smoothly. And then I would encourage you to continue to practice, do the kata itself several times. As a martial artist for a few years now, the continuity and the constant repetition is what allows for somebody to get really good at these things. So Chris is going to come at me with the first attack, which is a punch. I'm going to block. Remember I mentioned earlier that I would much more prefer to see you stop off on an angle and then do your punch. And then the next 2 moves for me is just kind of the icing on the cake. So I block, I hit him, and then I come in and I do 2 more punches to make sure that the situation is done. The next maybe he's incredibly strong and he can handle my punches. or it's a separate attacker scenario, or maybe it's a friend. He comes at me to attack me, I cover up, I shield, maybe I have to adjust depending on the situation. I'm here, I'm going to grab one of the hands. If I want to stay continuous with the fluidity of the kata, I'm going to grab his left hand, or my left hand, his right. I'm going to step through. If I like, I'm going to grab, and I'm going to go like this. So that motion that we see in the kata. Now, his buddy, or he, comes at me again. Depending on the angle of the punch, he's coming fairly straight right now. I'm going to deflect and trap and grab, and then typically we would pull. Typically I like to pull a person in to negate the other things that could be happening and gain control. The kata then does the other hand to create ambidextrous motion. So he comes in, I go off to the other side. He comes in, I go off to the other side, and then pull. Now, to review real quickly some alternate endings on the spear, or the blocking, the shielding. As he comes in, I block, I grab, but maybe I go the other way, the reverse of the kata. So I turn, and then I'm here. If you know the kata, the next, I'm going to let go for a moment. The next motion is this, but a picture if I don't let go, I throw him down. So those are two motions I like to include in that piece that fit very well for me and don't go outside of the nature of the kata there. The point of doing these Bunkai videos today is for people to be able to study when they're not in the dojo. I'm 100% am a believer that you cannot get good at something unless you're physically doing it in a classroom with other students. But I also reflect back many decades when I learned from videos back when kata videos were new on the, I almost said internet, this is going back before the internet, where I learned a lot of material from the videos so I could then take it and practice it in the dojo. So as much as I think you need to be with humans to practice, I also think it's good when you have quiet time to study and practice. We're going to be doing all of the katas and all of the bunkai in the near future so that you can continue to study and have a library to practice when you're not with us in the dojo. We hope this helps. If there's any questions, just reach out. Get to the dojo, please. Obviously, to practice with human bodies is much different than practicing watching a screen or a video or a YouTube channel. So hopefully this will help you to keep your skills up, keep your attitudes high, and continue to improve.